Hello everyone, welcome back. Hope you all are studying well. In last session, we have already studied about neuron, its structure, classification, then synapse and neurotransmitter. In today's session, we'll be studying about central nervous system, which includes brain and spinal cord. So let's start. CNS includes brain and spinal cord. Now comes to meninges. CNS is brain and spinal cord that is surrounded by three layers of meninges membranes called outer it is dura mater, middle it is arachnoid matter and inner is pia mater. You can remember like DAP. Order from outer to inner. D for dura mater, A for arachnoid matter and P for pia mater. Now come to next point. Leptomeninges, that is between pia and arachnoid, means the pia and arachnoid matter as distinct from the dura mater. The space between arachnoid and pia matter is known as subarachnoid space, which is filled with the fluid called cerebrospinal fluid. Next is CSF is formed by the choroid plexus. Plexus means a network of capillaries and nerve cells of lateral ventricle. So what they are saying, that CSF formed by the choroid plexus. Plexus means network of capillaries and nerve cells of lateral ventricle. So let's see in the photo, then you will remember. See, this is the choroid plexus. So from this space of lateral ventricle, see, this is the lateral ventricle. This green color I am marking, this is the choroid plexus and it is lateral ventricle. I am marking with another color. Yeah, let's see, this is the lateral ventricle. Can you see? So from here the CSF is formed. Now what is the rate? Rate of CSF formation is 0.5 ml per minute or 720 ml per day. Normal average amount of CSF is 150 ml, varies from 100 to 200 ml. After formation in lateral ventricle, CSF pass into third ventricle through intraventricular foramen, that is also called Monro's foramen. Okay, you have to remember. See, after formation in lateral ventricle, CSF pass into third ventricle through intraventricular foramen. So now let's come back to the image again. See, after this lateral ventricle, interventricular foramen, or it is also called Monro's foramen. Now it is coming to third ventricle. Where it is third ventricle? See, this one is the third ventricle. So from lateral ventricle it is forming, then by Monro's foramen it is coming to third ventricle. Up to this, hope it is clear. Then into fourth ventricle through cerebral aqueduct, also called Sylvian aqueduct. See, where it is cerebral aqueduct, it is written here. See, cerebral aqueduct. Now it is coming to fourth ventricle. Where it is fourth ventricle? This is the fourth ventricle. Can you link now? See, this is the foramen, right? Matlab by through which is reaching to the ventricles. So first one was Monro's foramen or intraventricular foramen. By this foramen, it was passing from lateral ventricle to third ventricle, and by Sylvian aqueduct or cerebral aqueduct, it is coming from third ventricle to fourth ventricle. Now next point. See, now from fourth ventricle CSF comes into subarachnoid space by two type of opening called foramen of Luschka, foramen of Luschka and foramen of Magdai. Can you see? So by these two it will go to the subarachnoid space. Where it is subarachnoid space? This one. See, this space, it is the subarachnoid space. Yeah. So hope this flowchart is clear to all of you. Now come to next part. CSF absorbed by arachnoid villi into spinal vein. Now after all this distribution, CSF is absorbing by arachnoid villi into the spinal vein. The obstruction of any of foramen through which CSF flow cause dilatation of ventricular cavity, and this condition is called internal hydrocephalus or non-communicating hydrocephalus. So मान लो अगर हमारे पास कितना है, मोनरोस फोरामेन है, सिल्वियन एक्विडक्ट है और फोरामेन ऑफ लुश्का है. So any of this foramen, if it is obstructed, then there will be a dilation of ventricular cavity, and this is called non-communicating hydrocephalus, also called internal hydrocephalus. And now next, arachnoid villi are blocked. This condition called external hydrocephalus or communicating hydrocephalus. Hope all points are clear. मतलब कोई भी कुछ obstruction नहीं है, बस absorption में problem हो रहा है. मतलब CSF absorbed by the arachnoid villi, right? So arachnoid villi is blocked. So this condition also called external hydrocephalus or communicating hydrocephalus. Lumbar puncture or spinal tap site is between L3 L4. Spinal cord ends at L2 into adult, and in newborn extend up to L3. However, meninges and CSF extend up to S2. Now specific gravity of CSF, that is 1.005. And CSF pressure, that is very important question for exam purpose, that is 50 to 175 centimeter of water. Specific gravity is 1.005. CSF pressure is 50 to 175 of centimeter of water. Brain contains 100 billion neurons. It constitutes about 2% of body weight and lies within the cranial cavity. Structure of brain and spinal cord are arranged into two layers. In brain, outer grey matter formed by nerve cell body and inner white matter formed by the bundle of axons, and it will be vice versa in case of spinal cord, means outer will be white matter and inner will be grey matter. Now parts of brain. At about 4 weeks of fertilization, head end of neural tube develop into 3 enlarged area called prosencephalon, that is forebrain, mesencephalon, that is midbrain, and rhombencephalon, that is hindbrain. At about 5 weeks, the prosencephalon forebrain develops into telencephalon, and develop into that telencephalon is developing into cerebrum, and diencephalon, which will be developed into epithalamus, thalamus, metathalamus, and hypothalamus. So in 4th week of fertilization, head end of neural tube develop into 3 enlarged area called prosencephalon, forebrain, mesencephalon, midbrain, and rhombencephalon, hindbrain. And at about 5 weeks, the prosencephalon, that is forebrain, develops into telencephalon, and it will be developed into cerebrum. And in case of diencephalon, it is developing into epithalamus, thalamus, metathalamus, and hypothalamus. Now rhombencephalon or hindbrain, it develop into metencephalon and develop into cerebellum and pons in later stage, and the myelencephalon, which develops into the medulla oblongata. Mesencephalon or midbrain develops into corpora quadrigemina and crura cerebri, a pair of bands joining the cerebrum to the medulla and pons, and aqueduct of Sylvius. Structurally and functionally, brain divided into 4 major divisions, that is brainstem, cerebrum, cerebellum, and diencephalon. So one by one we'll be discussing now. So first is brainstem, the stem-like part of the brain that connects the cerebral hemispheres with the spinal cord. Brainstem is continuing with spinal cord. Now brainstem consists of 3 structurally and functionally connected parts, that are So those are medulla oblongata, pons and midbrain. First is medulla oblongata or medulla. It is the anterior to hindbrain or cerebellum, which gradually tapers to form spinal cord. It forms the inferior part of the brainstem and length is about 3 cm. Its white matter forms the main pathway for the ascending tract, sensory and descending tract motor of the spinal cord. Clear? Next, bundle of nerve fibers having common origin, function and termination called tract into CNS and nerve into PNS. What is CNS? CNS is central nervous system, PNS is peripheral nervous system. Now some bulge of white matter on the anterior aspect of medulla called pyramids. Pyramids are formed by largest motor neuron tract, that is corticospinal tract, that passes from cerebrum to spinal cord. Lesions of pyramidal tract cause abnormal plantar flexion, which call positive Babinski sign. This is important, right? So positive Babinski sign, why it is appear? See, lesion in pyramidal tract cause abnormal plantar flexion called positive Babinski sign. And descending motor tract other than pyramidal tract called extrapyramidal tract. At junction of medulla and spinal cord, the 90% of axon of left pyramid cross to the right side and 90% of axon of right pyramid cross to left side. This called decussation or crossing of pyramids. The medulla also contains several nuclei called regulating centers, which control the vital functions. See, nuclei and ganglia, a group of nerve cell bodies or grey matter in CNS where synapses occur with each other. And ganglia, swelling or node, masses of cell bodies outside brain and spinal cord. Next is regulating center in medulla oblongata are respiratory and cardiac center. Vasomotor center that regulate blood pressure, deglutition that is swallowing center, vomiting it is sneezing, coughing and hiccuping center. So all these are regulating center in medulla oblongata. Again revise it. Respiratory and cardiac center, that is vasomotor center to regulate blood pressure, deglutition that is swallowing center, vomiting, sneezing, coughing and hiccuping center. Next is pons cerebelli. Okay. Yeah. So pons means strip of tissue connecting two parts of an organ. Strip of tissue connecting two parts of an organ. So pons connects parts of brain with one another by bundle of axons. So it is basically a bridge, right? It is connecting the parts of brain with one another by bundle of axons called tract. Its nerve fiber connects cerebrum, cerebellum, medulla and spinal cord. Pons forms bridge. As I told that it is working as a bridge between medulla and midbrain and between two hemispheres of the cerebellum. It is about 2.5 cm long parts situated anterior to the cerebellum, and it contains two respiratory centers that work with those in the medulla. Midbrain. Midbrain lies between pons and diencephalon and its length is about 2.5 cm, same as pons. The cerebral aqueduct connected third ventricle to fourth ventricle passes through the midbrain. Like medulla and pons, midbrain also contains both tracts and nuclei. Midbrain contains several nuclei. Among one, it is substantia nigra. We have studied in Parkinson's disease. See, nigra means black. Substantia nigra help to regulate unconscious muscle activity. Neurons extending between substantia nigra to basal nuclei secrete dopamine. Basically, this dopamine and substantia nigra both we have studied in Parkinson's disease. In later classes also we will be studying. Loss of these neurons associated with Parkinson's disease. See, and one reddish nuclei called red nuclei which coordinate muscular movement. So midbrain, hope it is clear to all of you. It is 2.5 centimeter long, and the cerebral aqueduct that is connecting third ventricle to fourth ventricle passes through the midbrain, and it is also having tractor nuclei like medulla and pons, and it contains several nuclei. Among one is substantia nigra, which is responsible to secrete dopamine, and loss of these neurons associated with Parkinson disease, and one reddish nuclei also present, that is red nuclei which coordinate muscular movement. Now come to reticular formation, the broad region into brainstem and into inferior part of diencephalon where white matter and grey matter show net-like arrangement called reticular formation. Ascending portion of reticular formation called reticular activating system or RAS. Its most important function is help to maintain consciousness, attention and alertness. Next is cerebellum or hindbrain. Hindbrain consists of cerebellum, pons and the medulla oblongata. All three together it is called cerebellum or hindbrain. Cerebellum, the second largest part of the brain, occupies the inferior and posterior aspect of cranial cavity posterior to medulla and pons. A deep groove known as transverse fissure or tentorium separate the cerebellum from the cerebrum. Now cerebellum is divided into two hemispheres by a narrow median strip called vermis. So what is vermis now? See, cerebellum is divided into two hemispheres by a narrow median strip that is called vermis. It forms 1/10 of brain and contains half of neurons of brain. Grey matter forms the surface of the cerebrum called cerebellar cortex. White matter of cerebellum lies deeply. What is the function now? Control and coordinate the movement of various group of muscle and maintenance of posture, balance, equilibrium of the body. And evaluation of movements initiated by motor area of cerebrum. Now coming to diencephalon. Cerebrum and diencephalon both form forebrain. It extends from the brainstem to the cerebrum and surrounds the third ventricle. It includes thalamus, hypothalamus and epithalamus. So let's see what is thalamus. It is the largest subdivision of the diencephalon, make 80% on either side, and its length is 3 cm. Okay. So what are the function now? The thalamus is the major relay station for most sensory impulses from brainstem and spinal cord to sensory area of cerebral cortex by the medial and lateral geniculate bodies. Is clear? So it is the major relay station for most sensory impulses from brainstem and spinal cord to sensory area of cerebral cortex. It also relays nerve impulses between the different areas of cerebrum. The thalamus also helps in regulation of autonomic activities and maintenance of consciousness. Other functions are expression of emotion, learning and cognition, thinking, knowing and perception of sexual sensation. All these are regulated by thalamus. Okay. Now come to hypothalamus. Hypothalamus located inferior to thalamus, मतलब पीछे. Inferior का मतलब क्या है? Thalamus के पीछे है hypothalamus. So we know, right? Hypothalamus and pituitary का जो axis है उससे ही सारे hormones produce होते हैं. So let's see one by one. Important functions of hypothalamus are production of hormones like GHIH, growth hormone, inhibiting hormone, PIH, then TRH, CRH, GHRH and GnRH. control of constant body temperature throughout life, that is 98.6 degree Fahrenheit. So it is mainly controlling the body temperature, that is 98.6 degree Fahrenheit. Then control of ANS, autonomic nervous system and consciousness. Then regulation of eating and drinking by feeding, that is hunger and thirst center. Regulation of emotional and behavioral pattern together with limbic system. Limbic system also called emotional apparatus or emotional brain. So it is regulating our eating and drinking by feeding and thirst center. Then regulation of emotional and behavioral pattern together with limbic system. Limbic system is called emotional apparatus or emotional brain. Then regulation of circadian rhythm. What is circadian rhythm? That is our sleep cycle, right? Means it provides body's internal biological clock. Clear? Now epithalamus. What is epithalamus? See, it is situated superior to thalamus. It consists of the pineal gland and habenular nuclei. Clear? Then habenular nuclei involved in olfaction, especially emotional response to odor such as loved ones' cologne. Now, next is cerebrum, supported on diencephalon and brainstem. It is the largest part of the brain. Cerebrum also called seat of intelligence. The outer rim gray matter of cerebrum called cerebral cortex, which contains billions of neurons. Thickness of cerebral cortex is 2 to 4 millimeter. The folds of gray matter of the cortex called gyri, okay, or gyri. Then shallow groups between folds called sulci and deeper group called fissures. Then longitudinal fissure or groove separates the cerebrum into right and left hemisphere. Okay, one deep that longitudinal fissure is present, that is separating the cerebrum into right and left hemisphere. Hemispheres are connected internally by the corpus callosum, broad band of white matter. Okay, yeah. Now three masses of gray matter, that is putamen, caudate nucleus and globus pallidum, located deep in the cerebral hemispheres, which collectively called basal nuclei. Old name, that is basal ganglia. Now basal nuclei involved into regulation of high level of movement and Parkinsonism and Huntington's chorea. These are the diseases of basal ganglia. It is clear? Now coming to lobes of cerebellum. It named after the bone that covers them. We know now. So what all are the bone? That is frontal, parietal, temporal and occipital, right? So the lobe also named same. Then functions of cerebrum, that is mental activities such as memory, intelligence, sense of responsibility, thinking, reasoning, moral sense, learning skill, mathematical ability, etc. Now sensory perception. Sensory perception, what is that? Perceived sense of pain, temperature, touch, sight, hearing, smell or taste. Like primary visual area, area 17, it is located at occipital lobe. Then auditory area, area 41 and 42, it located at temporal lobe. Olfactory area, that is area 28, it is located at temporal lobe. Then gustatory area, that is area 43 and located at parietal lobe. Somatosensory area. So where is somatosensory area? That is area 1 to 3, it is located at parietal lobe. Then motor area, area 4, it is located at frontal lobe. Then Broca's speech area, that is 44 and 45 area, it is located at frontal lobe into left hemisphere. And it contains the motor speech area and controls movement of tongue, lips and vocal cords. Loss of speech may follow any stroke affecting this area. Clear? So these are the sensory perception. that is sense, temperature, touch, sight, hearing, smell and taste. So it is clear now. Now coming to control of voluntary muscle. Motor area of right hemisphere of cerebrum controls voluntary muscle movement of the left side of the body and vice versa. So what does it mean? See, if your मतलब मान लो तुम हाथ रखो कि if it is right hemisphere of your brain, then it will control your left side of the body, and if it is left hemisphere of the brain, then it is controlling your right side of the body. So it is contralateral. Okay, so I am writing here contralateral means what is that? So I have already taught my students also. See, easy way to remember. This is your brain, right? Okay, this is your left and right. Fine. And here it is your body. So your right side of your hemisphere will control your left side, your body, and if it is left side of hemisphere, then it is controlling your right side of the body. Now it is clear. So hope you have understood. This is the contralateral things. Now coming to limbic system or emotional brain. A group of brain structure including the hippocampus, amygdala, dentate gyrus, cingulate gyrus, gyrus fornicatus, the archicortex and their interconnections and connections with the hypothalamus and other structure. The system is activated by motivated behavior and arousal. It influences the endocrine glands and autonomic nervous system. The hippocampus seems to be important in establishing new memories. Whatever we are creating new memories now, that is hippocampus. It is important to establish those new memories. Now coming to spinal cord. Spinal cord is a part of the central nervous system which contains 100 billion neurons. It is 40 to 50 centimeter long ovoid column of nerve tissue that extends from the medulla to the second lumbar vertebra in adult and till third or fourth lumbar vertebra in newborn infants. So 40 to 50 centimeter long it is, then extending from medulla to the second lumbar vertebra in case of adults and third or fourth lumbar vertebra in newborn infants. The opening in the occipital bone through which the spinal cord passes from the brain called foramen magnum. Clear? Nerve roots below ends of spinal cord which leave from lumbar, sacral and coccygeal region of spinal cord called chorda equina, also called horsetail. The center of the cord is grey matter in the shape of letter H. Contain two horns which consist of the cell bodies and dendrites of neuron. We know now that this grey matter is formed by cell bodies. Fine, and white matter is made by axons. So here it is saying that central of the cord is grey matter in the shape of letter H and it is consist of cell bodies and dendrites of neuron. The ventral, that is anterior horns of the grey matter, contains cell bodies of somatic motor neurons. The dorsal, that is posterior horns, contains cell bodies of interneurons. The white matter is arranged in tracts around the grey matter, which consist of myelinated axons. It is clear? Now the bundle axons which connect each spinal nerve to a segment of cord called root. Fine? Now posterior dorsal root contains sensory and anterior ventral root contain axons of motor neurons. It is clear? So let's see once again. The white matter is arranged in tracts around the grey matter which consists of myelinated axon. As I told you earlier that white matter is made up by myelinated axons, okay, and grey matter is made by cell bodies. So here it is Around gray matter, white matter is arranged. The bundle of axons connect each spinal nerve to a segment of cord called root, and posterior root contains sensory and anterior root contain axons of motor neuron. Is clear? A swelling on posterior root called posterior root ganglion, which contains cell bodies of sensory neuron. Spinal cord is the pathway for sensory impulses to the brain from tissue and motor impulses from the brain to tissue. 31 pairs of spinal nerve emerge from the spinal cord and innervate the trunk and limbs. Okay, in next class we will be studying about peripheral nervous system. Till now, revise this central nervous system once again, because it is vital and little bit critical also. So those who all are watching the nervous system first, you guys are doing amazing things. Keep learning, stay motivated. See you in next video soon. Thank you.